All right. A good Erev Shabbos, everyone. Our friend Eric Smith made a statement about the Holocaust, or what the Israelis call the Shoah. I mean, Shoah is actually a biblical word. It appears in the Psalms. It appears in Proverbs. And he said that the Holocaust, or the Shoah, has replaced religion for many people who identify as Jews. He didn't say who identify as Jews, but I know this is going to offend a lot of my brothers and sisters, including some very pious Orthodox Jews, but I personally agree with that. I'm not going to say I agree with Eric, because I think he's saying a little bit more than that, and there are certain issues to discuss here. But these are greater and broader issues to discuss. I certainly think, and I'll tell you know, I don't have a right to say this personally, because none of my family was in Europe at that time. All of my family was in, all of my ancestors, my grandparents were alive at that time, and my great-grandparents were alive at that time. We're all in America when the Holocaust happened, when World War II happened. One of my grandfathers served in World War II. The other one served in Korea. But I remember when I was the Rav of the shul in Richmond, Virginia, I befriended a Holocaust survivor, a Reform rabbi, who he considered himself to be essentially Orthodox in his mindset, but he was Reformed just by accident, more or less, when he came to America after the Holocaust, after surviving the Holocaust. He was in contact with family of his in Cleveland, and they said, well, what do you want to do for a living? And he said, well, I want to be a rabbi. And he meant that he wanted to be an Orthodox rabbi. And they said, well, perfect. There's a rabbinical college here. It was Hebrew Union College, which is the Reform Seminary. And so he became a Reform rabbi. That's where he got ordained. And that's where he served. And he was a chaplain in a nursing home. And so I remember this rabbi telling me something that I had always felt in my heart, but I was shocked to hear a Holocaust survivor saying this, that, there's too much of an obsession with the Holocaust. He was always presented. People were like, here's my Holocaust survivor. And now we had a lot of Holocaust survivors in Richmond, and he was, almost, there was a big Holocaust museum in Richmond. There still is. And, this rabbi said, it's a little bit too much. This obsession, it's overboard. And personally, I always felt that way. I've always was uncomfortable with the obsession that so many Jews have about the Holocaust. And the issue was not that it should not be part of Jewish history, but the issue was, how was it used? For many people who also, just like I said, I really don't have a right to say these types of things, perhaps because I didn't go through it, but a lot of these people also didn't go through it. They'll say something along the lines of, where was God during the Holocaust? That's I mean, there's two major problems with how the Holocaust is abused by secular Jews. One is, where was God during the Holocaust? So one thing is, all right, if you have someone who actually went through it, you be polite and you keep your mouth shut, right? But when you talk about, a 12-year-old kid who's like, oh, I don't believe in God because where was God during the Holocaust? Shut up. You heard that from someone else. You didn't come to that conclusion on your own. You heard that from someone else, and it's ridiculous. And you're nobody to be saying something so stupid. Unless you really want an answer. And there's a few answers, but people don't like to hear those answers because they're uncomfortable. And then the other thing is that they use the Holocaust as a justification for Zionism. That, you see, if only we had the state of Israel, this all would not have happened. Which is ridiculous and heretical. It's almost as atheistic as the first one. I mean, the first one, they admit that they're atheists. But then the second one is basically saying that God is not in control, even if whether or not they claim they believe in God. But then they're saying, as we're warned in Scripture, that a person will become complacent in their faith and say that my strength and the power of my hand accomplished this valor, this valiant deed. And that was, no, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. So both of those issues I believe to be highly problematic, and I always felt it, as long as I've been interested in Judaism, always felt very uncomfortable with this obsession with death. I mean, there's a famous, infamous fellow on YouTube. I mean, I'm saying he's famous because he has more views than I do, I think. Or I know who he is. I don't think he knows who I am. And he was a Jew who converted to Christianity. I'm not going to mention his name. I don't need to give him any more attention. But he would say that he was turned off by Judaism, and he became very anti-Jewish. And he's turned off by Judaism because as a young child he felt Judaism is a religion of death. And the truth is, it's not. Judaism is a religion of life. L'chaim, chai yaducha v'shamchucha. Even the seculars, they always like to wear the necklace with the chai on it, right? Judaism is a very life-affirming faith and way of life. So why did this man, as a small child, feel Judaism as a religion of death? And he described how the synagogue wasn't very nice and things like that. Maybe there's a mildew smell or something like that. That kind of turned him off. We don't have the fancy incense and things that Christians have in their churches. In some churches, especially the more traditional ones. But I personally always dislike the smell of incense, so but in any event, so why would someone say this? Judaism is a religion of death. And someone who, again, I disagree with, but I respect, Meir Kahane. He always said, I'm tired of this Judaism that's just about Kaddish, Yizkor, and Yortzeit, and that's it. That's all about death. people that only go to shul because they have a yard site. They don't daven 3 times a day. They don't say their daily obligatory liturgy prayers. They only do when it's their father or mother's anniversary of death. And of course, the synagogues, we're happy that these people are showing up in the synagogue. Something's better than nothing. Sure, that's great. It's wonderful that at least they do that. But where does all this come from? That everything is Kaddish, Yizkor, Yard Site, Holocaust, Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaShoah. People go to shul just for Yizkor, and they get there. They try to time it just when Yizkor is, and they leave as soon as Yizkor is over. And all right. So only Ashkenazim have Yizkor, but the Sephardim also Hashkava, everything. It's not just Ashkenazim who are guilty of this, because you have like this also Hashkava. And with all due respect, it's then the next generation comes and they don't even do that. Meaning, the nice thing was, you have a guy who maybe wasn't even putting tefillin every day, and then he starts coming to shul to say Kaddish for his father. And then after that, he keeps coming to shul, even when he's done saying Kaddish, and he's there every day, because he got hooked and something, and that's great, that's wonderful, it's beautiful. But this type of reverence that people have, I remember it was something like Yom HaShoah, and these college kids from Hillel, they're not keeping Shabbos, they don't put on tefillin, they don't keep kosher, but they have this incredible reverence that we have to go and read the names of the Holocaust victims, and that's not what, all of those holy martyrs who died in the Holocaust want you to be putting on tefillin. And the story that I heard of there was this one tzaddik, and he knew he was going to get killed the next day, and he said, he knew Shas by heart, and he was in the middle of White Cotton or something like that, so he told his student or his son or someone else was there with him, and he told him, can you please finish White Cotton for me? Can you finish this tractate of the Talmud? Can you do a mitzvah? Can you learn Torah? I remember, a lot of the shuls and the temples, they have some kind of like a chesed project that they do for a bar mitzvah kid, that he should feel like he's doing some kind of mitzvah for the bar mitzvah. And so, some of these kids, they'll do the bar mitzvah twinning. A kid who died in the Holocaust, was murdered in the Holocaust, never had a bar mitzvah. I'm having his bar mitzvah with him. And I said to one of my cousins, I said, you know what that means? And the thing is, he puts on tefillin every day. I said, if you're doing something like this, don't think you're getting off easy. Every mitzvah you do, you're doing for him for the rest of your life. Not that there's really such a thing, that the way that we never had this idea really, but it worked and it's good. If he just feels like I'm having my bar mitzvah because this kid never had a bar mitzvah, but if he's really thinking I'm doing mitzvahs because he didn't have a chance to, that's good. Meaning, how do we use the Holocaust? If we use the Holocaust as a wake-up call, which is what it was from God, to say, wake up, stop being communists. I mean, it's no coincidence that Hitler hated the communists also, even though he himself was a socialist, he himself was a Marxist. Stop being socialists altogether. You don't be a right-wing socialist or a left-wing socialist. They're both bad. And they're both really on the left. But don't be a Marxist. Don't be a communist. Don't be a Nazi. But I'm saying, this is what happened to the Jewish community. They went away from God, And God was like, wake up already. What are you doing? Wake up, you sleepers, from your sleep. Like we say by the Tekiah Shofar. It was a big wake-up call. What are you doing? And what did the secularists do? They went deeper and deeper into their heresy and evil. And not only that, but they're crying about being persecuted, which they were. But then they go and persecute other people. And they turn into Nazis themselves. Not only talk about the Arabs, but the Jews, they attack the Jews. You know, right now, one of the Satmar Rebbes is in Yerushalayim, and for Chanukas Abai is going to be there Shabbos. I guess Shabbos already in Yerushalayim, isn't it? And they renovated the shul where he was the Rav when he was a younger man. Before his father's Gaba brought him back from Yerushalayim to groom him to be the next Rebbe, or a next Rebbe. I really honestly believe that the Baruch Moshe wanted there to be two Rebbes. I think he wanted both Aaron and Zalman to be Rebbes. That's 100% what I believe. And I believe Moshe Gaba only wanted Zalman, but I really believe, at least early on, especially when he was more coherent, that the Baruch Moshe wanted both. Probably at first he wanted only Aaron, Reb Aaron, and then he switched to wanting both, Reb Aaron and Zalman Leib, and they're fine. I know both of them. They're wonderful. They're both fine Rebbes. I have no problem with either of them. I like them both. You know, I know Reb Aaron longer, but more recently I was seeing Reb Zalman Leib more, and I see them both every now and then. That's neither here nor there. But anyway, he's going to the shul where he was the Rav years ago. I believe his son is the Rav there now. And he's making Shabbos there. And that shul, 12, 13, 14 years ago, I remember, and I have a video on my channel from this, that they came into the shul in the middle of davening Cholamoid Pesach, and they were beating. I remember going to Afghana then in Manhattan against this, and they're beating up innocent Chassidish Yid they knocked a Streimel off his head with a billy club. They're Nazis, and yet, you know, and then they're upset. Why? How come the Haredim they don't stand still and waste a minute that they could be learning on Yom HaShoah when the alarm goes off? You have to have a moment of silence. You have to have a moment of silence. Have a moment to say Tehillim. You know, I remember Maggid Shir in Yeshiva. He said, you know, he was on the bus and he didn't chap. It was Yom HaShoah. So he said, I'm going to take out Tehillim and say Tehillim Le'ila Nishmas, the Kedoshim, in memory of the martyrs, the holy martyrs. I'm going to say some psalms. And the Chilonim, they were so angry. You're so disrespectful. You're praying at such a time like this. You have to have a moment of silence. So, you know, I know, like, a lot of people feel like, well, I mean, there's this whole issue of they talk Holocaust denial, and what is this now? I'll be honest. I believe denying the Holocaust is stupid, and it's flying in the face of history, and you know, but but is it like this horrible bad sin to deny the Holocaust? Now, B'etzem, I don't see what the real issue is. The problem is not the denying the Holocaust. The problem is, why are they denying the Holocaust? Just like the problem is, why are the secularists making this big deal about the Holocaust to strengthen their heresy? So the same thing, why are certain people denying the Holocaust? Well, I can understand. They're upset about Zionism, things that, and they want to try to uproot, because they believe that the Zionism is rooted in the Holocaust, so they want to uproot that and but they really just want to present Jews as bad people who make up lies, and that's what that's why they're denying the Holocaust, to make Jews look bad. And what's the motivation to deny the Holocaust? That's the question. And but they make it like it's the worst thing a person could ever do is deny the Holocaust. There's a lot worse things. It's certainly worse for a Jew to break Shabbos, or to forget or to not put on tefillin every day, or to eat treif, than Holocaust denial, because that's the thing. They're like, look, the Torah Karta, they're supporting the Holocaust deniers, and Yisrael David Weiss, who I disagree with very strongly on a lot of issues, but you listen to his speech. This was also about 12, 13 years ago, when he was in Iran, and he was speaking at this Holocaust conference, and there was supposed to be there also even some Israelis were going to go there and speak, and Yisrael David Weiss, he said that the that of course the Holocaust happened. He said it might have been more than 6 million, might have been 7 or 8 million, and his family went through it, but that doesn't justify the subjugation of the Palestinians. Whatever. That's his view, which is true. It doesn't justify it if they're being subjugated. I don't personally believe they're really being subjugated. I think they're getting everything handed to them on a silver platter. And the real victims of Zionism are the Jews. But that's neither here nor there. So anyway, that's more or less but the Zionists got so mad at him. Look, what is he doing? He's a Holocaust denier. And you're a Machal Shabbos, and that's much worse. As much as I disagree with Yisrael David Weiss, and especially the biggest thing that I disagreed with him is his extreme disrespect for the Gedolei Yisrael who disagree with his shita. You can respectfully disagree, and he even had maybe some good points with what he disagreed with. But he actually has some very good points, especially about sending kids who are not so frum into the army, who come from frum homes. That a certain Rosh Hashiva suggested that if they're not really learning, they should go in the army. And Yisrael David, he said, but then when those kids come home on a furlough, they come home for Yontiv and they have their uniform on. Do you know how Hasidic kids think? They're so excited. Oh, Hatzula, Hatzula, Hatzula. They say, oh, it's so bad. And so there was wisdom in what he said in his disagreement. I'm not going to mention who this gadol was because I don't want to show him disrespect. But this Weiss from Muncie, he said, oh, there's a Zokin Mamre. And you can't talk like that. That's that he's a, that's disrespectful. We don't. So how do you say Zaken Mamre? He's in the Bible talks about an elder who went off in the wrong direction. So that's but pretty much. The Holocaust definitely did happen, and it's real. And what should we focus on about the Holocaust? There's these wonderful videos from Torah Masorah about the history of the people who are Meiser Nefesh to keep mitzvahs. Those are the real heroes of the Holocaust, not the ones who died taking up arms in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising and causing people to get killed, and that's why they make that day Yom HaShoah. No, what's important is to remember how people kept the faith. Where was God in the Holocaust? Like the story of the guy, he said, I'm not going to be religious anymore because I was in the Holocaust, and there was one guy, he had a siddur, and he was telling everybody, you could use my siddur if you give me your bread. And people were giving him his bread to have a siddur. He said, if that's how religious people are, I don't want anything to do with him. And the thing is, that's a disgusting thing perhaps that this guy was doing, right? But he should have been, instead of looking at this one guy who was doing something disgusting, and you can't blame him because he was in hell, and so you can't blame him for what he did, which is what this guy is doing. But the rabbi said to him, instead of looking at that guy, why don't you look at all the people who gave up their bread so they could have a siddur to pray? That's what's important in the Holocaust. That's where God was. But the tzaddikim who kept the faith no matter what, when all hope was lost, and they still kept the faith. And also, the Teichacha, we know that God is rebuking us for our sins, and that's where God was also. But more is remembering the holiness of the people who are keeping God's commandments in such a difficult and horrifying situation, risking their lives to sanctify the name of God. That is what we have to remember in the Holocaust. And instead of using the Holocaust to replace religion, how so many in the secular left do, we have to use it as a tool to strengthen our religion, strengthen our faith, and become closer to God. And so we have Tisha B'Av, and we say Kinnis, and that's what we're supposed to do. Not like the Yom HaShoah, where they're thinking about the people who are taking up arms and they're so proud. Look, this guy is a soldier. No, look at this tzaddik who would was Meiser Nefesh to put on tefillin or this and that. Think about like Rabbi Weinberger's father with his tefillin. Zol Gesundheit, you should have it for Shlema, or the Badal Chaim Tovim, or Pershel Kornreich. He told the partisans, kill me. What do I need to live for if I don't have my tefillin? These are the lessons of the Holocaust. This is what we have to remember. To remember the bravery of those who stayed true to God in such an evil place. To remember, with the Kloisenberger Rebbe, he said, when the Nazi was stepping on his head and spitting on him, and said, "Are you still the chosen people?" And the Kloisenberger Rebbe said, "As long as we're the ones who are being stepped on and not stepping on others, then we are still the chosen people." God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. We'll see you later.